As you all know, my name is Alex Casano. I'm the events coordinator here at the Clearwater Historical Society. Today I want to welcome you to my presentation. I'll be speaking about top 30 sites in historic Dunedin. And Dunedin was first settled in 1852, and the city's name came from the Scottish Gaelic for Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland. But before I proceed any further, I want to talk about some upcoming events here at our museum. August 14th, from 10 to 11, we'll be having a presentation about the history of the Imagine Museum. The Imagine Museum is a contemporary glass and art museum in St. Pete. They have works from notable glass artists. They're not the Chihuly Museum, that's different, the Moravian Art Center. They're coming next year in 2022 to speak about their collection. So, also on August 14th, we'll be having the Seaside Seabird Sanctuary come at 11:30 to 12:30 to speak about the history of the Seaside Seabird Sanctuary. They're also going to be bringing a bird too, so you want to come meet a live bird and hear the history, come in 2 weeks. That also in August, we have on August 28th, it's a Saturday. All our events are on Saturdays, usually from 10 to 11, but otherwise sometimes noted. We'll have Cracker Country on August 28th. They're a living history museum located on the Tampa, Florida Fairgrounds. They are going to be coming to speak of their village history. It's almost like a heritage village, if you know what I mean, in Largo, which is a living history museum. But they're going to be, it's in Tampa, so I hope you join us for these and other upcoming events, and check our website or Facebook for more information. So let's begin our tour and presentation of Dunedin. And also, this is my Dunedin book. This was inspiration for my presentation today. So if you want to read and learn more about the history of Dunedin, get my book. It's available on Amazon.com. All my books are. I'm an 11-time author and photographer. I published 11 books, self-published 11 books actually, some range from the history of the towns like Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Tarpon, Pinellas, and other towns. And also, in my newest book, St. Petersburg, and others range from my photography collection. I've been a photographer since 2014, so I created a compilation of my photos from 2014 to 2018. It's called The Natural Beauty of Florida, a photographic journey, Natural Beauty of Florida, excuse me. And that's a collection of 100 of my photos, of nature photos. So be sure to check those out and others on my Amazon page. So this is Honeymoon Island, a beautiful barrier island. But as you might know, some of you might know, it used to be one island with Caladisi. It was called Hog Island. Before the Great Hurricane in 1921, they were one island, like I said. The 1921 created Hurricane Pass. It cut through Honeymoon and Caladisi, splitting the north end, which is Honeymoon, the south end, Caladisi. A man by the name of Clinton Washburn purchased the island. He actually purchased it. It got its name from the honeymoon couples that would spend their honeymoon there. 50 rental cottages were built on Honeymoon Island. Thanks to a Life magazine articles, the newlyweds soon arrived to spend their honeymoon on the island, so that's where it got its name from. Unfortunately, the cottages eventually fell into disrepair, and the land was sold off in the 1960s to a developer who was planning a residential development. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and we have a beautiful Florida State Park. In the 1980s, the politicians of Florida decided to purchase the land, and it still remains a beautiful island, so you could visit that. This is Caladisi Island, the south side of Hog Island, or now Caladisi. Henry Scherer, you might have heard of him. He was a Dunedin pioneer who homesteaded on present-day Caladisi Island. He was originally from Switzerland. He came to the island on a shakedown cruise. He discovered the island and fell in love with it, and so he decided to apply for a Homestead Act. He got Homestead from Grover, Cleveland, I think it was, and he got the deed for the land, and he decided to build a home and live on the island. He married his wife, Catherine, eventually, who was the Malone family, servant, who he would come down to the Malone residence to peddle produce and other groceries he would sell to the Dunedin residents. So he met Catherine, and he fell in love with her, and they got married on Caladisi, and eventually they had a daughter named Myrtle, who was born on Caladisi. She was born on February 22nd, 1895, and in the 1980s, Myrtle eventually published a book recollecting her life titled Yesteryear I Lived in Paradise, which is all about her life. You could read more about her. It's published by her. Also, Caladisi is now a beautiful state park. And I want to, before we get to the Palm Court here, who can guess the cover of my Dunedin book? What is this? It's an important site of my Dunedin. Just take a wild guess. It represents Dunedin history. What I like to do with my books, too, is create interesting things that the town represents with history-wise. So, can anybody take a wild guess? Yeah.
St. Andrews?
No. Unfortunately, it is the harp tree of Caladisi Island, which is famous in its own right, but it represents the history of Dunedin. So I thought that would be an interesting trivia. So the Palm Court Motel was built in 1958. It was previously this, the Heart's Desire Motel and Restaurant, as you could see here. This is Bambino Pizza. It was formerly a drive-in restaurant called Dogs and Suds. It was a popular fast food chain. Dogs and Suds would be like Biff Burger, I would compare it to, if you know what that is in St. Petersburg, or or a Steak and Shake kind of thing, or even kind of like a Sonic type place, but it's it was like a fast food chain basically that they served, but it's now Bambino. It became Bambino in 1997, and it was built in 1960, the original building. This is Andrews Memorial Chapel. It's currently located near Edgewater Park, not Edgewater Park, Hammock Park, excuse me. It was originally located in the Dunedin Cemetery. It was constructed in 1876 by B.M. Brown and the Emerson family. They donated the land for the original church. The church was named in honor of John Andrews. In the 1970s, the church has moved to its current location, like I said, in Hammock Park. The church is owned by the Dunedin Historical Society, and it's primarily used as a wedding chapel or events. They also have there too. This is the Seaside Artisan Motel. The Seaside Artisan was built in 1957. The motel features an open-air shuffleboard court. The main office was designed by a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, who was a famous architect. And Frank Lloyd Wright did many things, especially with Florida Southern College in Lakeland. He designed those buildings. This is Eli's Barbecue. It's on, I think, Skinner. Let me make sure of that.
Yeah.
It's a popular barbecue place. Yep, 360 Skinner Boulevard. It was built in 1960. It features an outdoor seating area as well as an easy access to the Pinellas Trail. A lot of people love to go there for lunch. They're only open Fridays and Saturdays. So. This is the Stone Age Bakery. It's a popular bakery. It was built in 1915. The Stone Age is a non-GMO and organic bakery that focuses on using fresh and healthy ingredients. It's also located on Skinner. This is a view, I'll come over here, of downtown Dunedin, what it used to look like in the 40s. It's kind of changed, but here is the chamber. Here would be Crown and Bowl, which I'll get to in a minute, and then down there is by where Casa Tina's is. Today, you kind of see, it's hard to see the historical museum, but it is there. So this is the chamber. Look familiar? Originally built in 1912, this building was later home to the Bank of Dunedin in 1913. It is currently the location of the Dunedin Chamber of Commerce, which was established in 1926. The building also housed in the past an office for Dorothy Douglas. So it also houses a real estate office on the top. And it's the main, when people come to Dunedin, it's one of the first buildings you see on Main Street.
Who's Dorothy Douglas?
She was a woman that was a resident of Dunedin. This is Strahan's. It was built in 1941. Strahan's Ice Cream has 3 locations in Dunedin. Of course, on Main Street, which is pictured here. One in Palm Harbor on Alt 19 and Tampa Road. And there's one in Countryside on 580, of Clearwater. So it's a popular ice cream place. This is Crown and Bowl. It was built in 1918. It was formerly Kelly's Restaurant in the Chickaboom Room, not that long ago before Crown and Bowl took it over. It is now the Crown and Bowl Restaurant, of course. And the Crown and Bowl Bar previously was a drugstore and ice cream parlor. This over here, as you can see, was called the Dunedin Sundries. So that portion of the building was the Dunedin Sundries. This is the Dunedin History Museum. The first railroad depot was built by the Orange Belt Railway in 1888. It was later replaced in 1902 by the Atlantic Coast Depot. The second railroad depot burned to the ground, and subsequently a third and final Atlantic Coast Railroad depot was built in 1922. The railway served the community of Dunedin until the mid-80s, like everything. The building became the home of the Dunedin Historical Society Museum in 1985. Where the railroad was and is today is you walk on it every day. Some people do. Is the Pinnell's Trail. It stretched from Tarpon Springs all the way to St. Pete. And what happened to the Atlantic Coast, the railway line, is I found out this interesting. They merged into what is now CSX, which is a freight train or company, commercial train. So that's what happened to the southern Atlantic Coast line, a railway line. It was originally a theater. It was originally Dunedin's first motion picture and stage theater, which opened to the public in 1919. Currently, the building housed the theater. It's home to, partially this building shares, as you could see back in the day books, but also the building shares this, Casa Tina's, which is a popular Mexican restaurant. And Casa Tina's was built in 1917. It features delicious Mexican cuisine and offers unique ambiance. It also provides on select nights different entertainment. They host entertainment there too. It's a unique Mexican restaurant. This is the Sandpiper Coffee Roasters. It was built in 1925, originally a home, as you could see. It looks like a home. But it roasts their own coffee on site the Sandpiper. It was formerly the Purple Moon Cafe and Gift Shop. This is a Methodist church. The First United Methodist Church of Dunedin, boy that was long, was established in 1915. In 1922, a bungalow-style building was built on the site as the first location for the church. The current building was constructed in the 1960s. This is the Police and Military Museum. This building was built in 1926. The museum honors those who serve and all those who have served in the United States Armed Forces and law enforcement. Artifacts range from the Revolutionary War to present. It's right on Douglas, right after Maine and Douglas. It'll be on your right before you approach the Blue Jays stadium. This is the VFW Post 2550, excuse me. The land was purchased from the city of Dunedin in 1947, and the building was built that same year. The organization was chartered on January 26, 1945. The LVT, which stands for Landing Vehicle Tract, which you'll see in a minute, in front of the VFW Hall, is from World War II era. It's original. The VFW Hall is named in honor of SVC Zachary L. Shannon, who was killed in a helicopter crash, unfortunately, in Afghanistan in 2013. This is the landing vehicle tract. Also, I wanted to, that's from World War II. I wanted to tell you guys, too, what was popular around Dunedin and Clearwater area was Donald Roebling's alligator. He created it, and the Army found out, and it was basically, it could go on land and also water, so it was helpful invention that Donald Roebling, and Donald Roebling was big in Clearwater, but I'll save that more for my Clearwater
I had my Sweet 16 party there.
Oh, wow.
What was
Fire
it called?
band, yeah, but there was no tank.
What was it called before the young man died in 2013?
It was just the VFW
Oh,
Post
okay.
2550. So it's been that. So next we have the First Presbyterian Church of Dunedin. The First Presbyterian Church of Dunedin was originally formed in 1871. It's one of the oldest churches in Dunedin. The first minister was Reverend Joseph Brown, who came to Dunedin in 1868. In 1882, the church was named Bethesda, which operated the Hagler Schoolhouse. Eventually, the congregation moved to Andrews Memorial Chapel until they built the current church, which is on the corner of Highland Avenue and Scotland Street in 1926. The church houses the oldest bell tower and church bell in Dunedin, so it has some history to it. Also, it's a great place to go into. I was able to tour it, and it's an amazing place to see.
Do they offer tours?
Yes, you have to call the church. This is the Dunedin Stadium, formerly Grant Field. It's been the spring training home for the Toronto Blue Jays since 1977. In 2019, the stadium was renovated and expanded for future fans of baseball to enjoy. And this is TD Ballpark, which is a bank named after a bank, but they bought the naming rights to the stadium. And one interesting thing, too, I wanted to tell you before I get to my next site is that the Dunedin Blue Jays, due to the lockdowns, they couldn't go back to Canada or play in Canada, so they decided to play their full season down here in Dunedin last year. So the team actually played at, not just for spring training, but the whole season at TD Ballpark, formerly Dunedin Stadium. This is the Dunedin Public Library. It's the oldest library in Pinellas County. It was started in 1895 by Mr. C.B. Burden, who donated 200 books for the public use. Originally, the library was housed in a building located in Edgewater Park. In 1935, the city of Dunedin took over ownership of the library. In the 1950s, the library moved into a building located on Loudon Avenue. It was later moved in the 1960s to the present City Hall building, which the City Halls, they're talking about building a new one in Dunedin. So the present will soon become the past City Hall building. In the 1970s, it was moved again to the Douglas Plaza Shopping Center. The building that was located in the plaza was eventually demolished and replaced with this current building, which was built and opened in 1996.
I think the building they demolished was a Publix.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as you'll see here, this is the building located in the Edgewater Park. It formerly shared a yacht club, skate club. There was several clubs within the library in Edgewater Park. Unfortunately, they demolished it. This is the shopping center, as I was saying. Yes, there is a Publix right here, as you could see in the 60s. This is where the Dunedin Library stands. No, that's, whoops. Gorgeous. That's it now. This is the historic family hotel. It was built in 1924. Originally, the hotel housed a radio station in 1927. It was officially opened to the public as a hotel in 1928. The building had many uses over the years, which includes Trinity College in 1961 and Sheeler International University in 1990. In 2010, the building was closed. Unfortunately and thankfully, it resurrected and it reopened in 2018 as a luxury 5-star hotel, and it's currently owned and operating by the Mansell Lodging and Development. And weddings and other celebrations are held at this hotel. It's a famous hotel, which is great that they restored it. This is the War Monument at Edgewater Park. This site that once was the Douglas and Somerville store in the 1800s, this is what really got Dunedin started, because Dunedin was originally going to be named Jonesboro, but they didn't like that name. Who wants to visit a place named Jonesboro? So they decided to name it Dunedin, like I said, which is the Scottish Gaelic for Edinburgh in Scotland. So when people say Dunedin, they're talking about Edinburgh, really, in Scotland, but it's actually a place here in Florida. The War Monument was dedicated in 1920 to all war heroes and that fought for the country's freedom. What's interesting about this memorial, as you could see the different states and the different stones, you could walk around this mural, all 50 states are here. This is C.C. Riders. It's been getting a lot of attention lately. There's a movie called The Taste of Love, I think it's called. It's a Hallmark production. They're looking for extras. I'm sure you've heard it in the news, but it's going to be filmed here primarily. The building was built in 1903. C.C. Riders was established in 1988, and is family owned and operated. The building has a Key West architectural-inspired design with a wraparound porch for outside dining. So it's kind of fits in Key West, but I'm glad it's in Dunedin.
Where is that located?
It's on Main Street. It's by Airway Drive. It's on the corner. Before you get to Old Bay and the Dunedin Marina area. It's before that. You can't miss it. This is Sabor a Cuba, excuse me. It was built in 1922. Sabor a Cuba is a Cuban cafe which features homemade cigars and Cuban sandwiches. They have a second location in Tarpon Springs, and Sabor a Cuba translated means taste of Cuba. So that's what it means. And also, this should be in Ybor City, but I'm glad it's in Dunedin.
Where is that located?
It's on, let me get you an address here. Excuse me. This is why I'm glad I bought my book. It has the addresses in there too, so you can visit and learn about the different sites. So here we go. It's on 828 Highland Avenue, and you could get these on Amazon, like I said earlier. They're not expensive. They're $16 plus shipping. So this is V's Collectibles. The building was built in 1910. It was formerly a residence for the Springer family until it was sold in 2016 to V's Collections. It has a unique rock house architectural style, as you can see here. It's made of rocks. You don't see that. This is the living room on Main Restaurant. It's on Main Street, of course. The building was built in 1952. It was formerly a location for the Dunedin Post Office in the 1950s, and it's currently the Dunedin Living Room on Main, which is a very popular restaurant. And when this photo was taken, it was this color, but now they've spruced it up, did a paint job on it, and it looks much better. This is McGuire's Barbershop for Men. This building was built in 1949. It is currently occupied by McGuire's Barbershop since 2011. Excuse me. It served as Taylor's Barbershop since 1949. This is Caledonia Brewing Company. That's also located on Main Street. It was previously housed the Dunedin Times, which is a local newspaper. This building was built in 1925. It is now a small batch craft brewing company called Caledonia Brewing. There we go. My final site I would like to speak about is the Dunedin Lanes. This building was built in 1960. Dunedin Lanes is a bowling alley which features 24 lanes. It is also offers cosmic bowling on Friday and Saturday nights, which they adjust their lights, and you could play bowling all night for a reasonable price. Located on the property is also the Chatterbox Restaurant and a Bowler's Prestige Pro Shop. And I just wanted to tell you all these photos, besides the ones listed. Thank you to the Florida State Archives for those photos that are listed, and all the other ones are taken by me, so I'm the photographer and I'm up there. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and do you have any questions? Yes?
Just a comment for me, this is one of my favorite places. You know, as we know, we've been to many of these places, and just like looking at Caladisi and then seeing how, you know, Myrtle's history there, you know, and she wrote Yesteryear in Paradise, and how she speaks about the church bells on her walk from, you know, Caladisi up to Honeymoon, and those church bells being at the First Presbyterian Church that Sunday. So it's interesting how history and the past and the present all kind of come together beautifully, you know, in this area. And we're lucky to have also Trudy, who wrote about the Fenwick Hotel and its history as well. It's a blessing that we're all able to enjoy her book too.
Any other questions?
Alex, where is V's Collections? That's
V's
Stonehouse.
Collections.
I've never seen that. Or
It's
drove
down
by
a
it.
side street. It is on.
It's no longer there?
No,
She did. She closed.
Oh, gotcha.
It's on 911 Highland Avenue.
Okay. Well, I'm sure I've driven by it, because I never saw it. That's charming. Yeah. But the
And
house is
a lot of the sites that I didn't cover are featured in my book, so that's an important way to learn more about Dunedin's history.
Do you have some of the older homes of Dunedin in the book?
Well, I primarily featured on commercial, because getting into residential private property rights, but I did feature some, let's put it that way, like some that were homes that are now businesses. I primarily stay away from residences. So, that's about it. Yes.
Kellogg Mansion,
Yes.
what's the status?
Well, they're saying, well, I'll tell you the story from what I know about the news. As you know, the Kellogg Mansion was built in the 1920s. It was the former home of the Kellogg brothers, or the Kellogg brother, who came to Dunedin. And right now, they owned, somebody bought the property. It was for sale for a time. Unfortunately, when they bought it, they announced plans that they're going to demolish it. So it's going to turn to dust. And they're going to be rebuilding something even more grand. But it just breaks my heart. But one thing I heard in the news is before they were demolishing it, because they were going to leave Dunedin, the city of Dunedin, and the historical museum with some of the artifacts from the mansion. Unfortunately, the former owner decided to call Tampa Bay Architectural Salvage and strip the entire mansion. So it's basically a ghost mansion right now, and they're having legal problems with that too. So,
Alex, wasn't there a major theft in the mansion as well?
well, possibly, I don't know, but right now it looks like the Tampa Bay Architectural Salvage, they were called, they removed everything, and they have a lot of explaining to do. I'll just put it that way to be nice, but unfortunately, now it's a ghost home. Unfortunately, they stripped chandeliers. It's a shame what they did. They could have, what they wanted to do is before demolishing it, and they might still do it, is take a 3D rendering of the whole entire house so they could preserve it at least in photos, and that way, but it's a shame that they wanted to demolish it. And it just breaks my heart, because we don't need more condominiums, we don't need more apartments, we need to keep the history going. That's what I mean, and that's why I'm doing it. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and come back on August 14th for the Imagine Museum in the Seabird Sanctuary. So come check that out. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.